Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to Status of the Nation. Quick thing, if at any point in the video I appear grey or the color becomes a bit weird, it's because it's kind of cloudy and grey outside, and like I said to you guys last time, I use natural light, so if any time in the video the color becomes a bit weird, that's what it is. But anyway, welcome back to my channel. Thank you again for joining me, and as per usual, Status of the Nation, we're going to be breaking down some of the biggest stories politically that have been happening not only in the country but in countries abroad. So the very first thing we're going to get into is SASSA. Now by now you guys know all the drama and everything that's happened, and like I said last week, the Constitutional Court has basically extended the contract for CPS for 12 more months for them to pay out the grants up until they find a new company. Well, SASSA tweeted this. So when they tweeted this, I was like, okay, they're basically saying that because the first falls on a Saturday, there won't be any payments that go out, but that they're going to make provisions for other people at like ATMs or something like that. I'm not quite sure what that means. But I always thought that if like a payment day or like a debit order day or something like that, if it fell on the Sunday, it would move to the Saturday. I never knew that Saturday, had issues in terms of payments. But they're basically saying that, look, because it's a Saturday, the money won't be available on Saturday. All I'm saying is, come the beginning of next week, everybody should be with their money. If not, they're about to have a problem on their hands. So, they can have their little day about Saturday, and because it's a Saturday, no payments, whatever, but come next week, everybody should be paid. In other news, Pres Zuma has basically said that teachers should, keep their hands to themselves and not be touching other people's children. Not in the way that you think. President Zuma has basically come out to condemn corporal punishment and to say that it's unlawful and it violates the dignities of the students, and basically it puts the safety of the students at risk. He's basically said that because it's unlawful, any teacher who's found to be breaking the law, there will be serious consequences. I, for one, am in agreement. Like, I don't have kids, but I've got nieces and, younger cousins who are still in that school-going age. And I will tell you this, if any of them were to tell me or anyone else in my family that a teacher hit them as a form of discipline, there would be problems. Look, we all understand discipline. We all get that. No one is saying anything about discipline, but I think we are all in agreement that teachers should not be putting their hands on students at all. Because can you imagine if you're a teacher and you go and you put your hands on someone else's child and that parent comes to school and they run up on you? Do you see how it's created an even bigger problem? So I, for one, agree with President Zuma. Don't hit other people's children. Teachers, don't be hitting other people's children. Like he says, it's unlawful and there will be consequences if you break the rules. So you guys remember I told you a couple of weeks back that the Northwest basically wanted to spend 6 million rands erecting a statue for Pres Zuma. Well, that's all gone to dust. Basically, the Northwest government has withdrawn that tender to build a statue for him. But what they're saying now is that instead of a statue, they actually want a monument. And they say that this monument will include other people who were with Pres Zuma when he was arrested during apartheid and all of that. My only question is, why are they so pressed about this? I'm not understanding why there's this need or this urgency almost to, make this statue or monument happen. I feel that there are better uses for the money. I do. Of course, he's a struggle hero. Of course, he was part of the struggle, and there can be other ways to commemorate him. But I feel like spending 6 million, or well, that tender has been withdrawn. But whatever amount of money is going to be spent on the monument, I do believe that that money could be spent better elsewhere. That's just what I think. Another story that caught my attention this week is this one. In China is being used to manufacture drugs that delay menopause. Bruh. So when I read this, I was like, oh my goodness, what the heck? Like, when I heard the story, I was like, so our ivory is not enough? Like, rhino poaching is not enough? We're going after the donkeys? Anyway, meanwhile, at the University of Pretoria, this is happening. So when I read the story, it basically says that if you want to be part of this residence, you have to write an essay, part of your application, to basically say why you believe the language and the culture should be protected. At this point, UP is like, we're not involved. They've basically come out to say that this residence is a private residence and it's outside of UP. So they were basically like, you know what, we don't want you guys to come for us. We didn't do anything wrong. This isn't ours. It's a private thing and it's there on its own. And I'm just like, all right, like, okay, it is what it is. There's going to be a private residence, so I suppose there is one, you know, where it's just Afrikaans only. So, yeah. So, the latest in DA drama is this. So, you guys remember I told you last week, or we spoke about it a bit, you know, all the tweets that Helen Zille had put out and all that drama that they've got going on over there. So this is the latest drama. All of this, of course, is still alleged because it was the Sunday Times who reported this, or this is where I got it from, where they're basically saying that, you know, various sources are saying that Musi wants Helen Zille to go. So, of course, it's alleged and we don't know whether or not that's true. But I will tell you what's true, though, is that Musi Maimane is sick and tired of you guys talking reckless about him and the relationship he has with Helen Zille. He's actually fed up. So you guys know that every time, you know, Helen Zille does something wrong, people look to Musi Maimane to correct her, which is valid. And people have been saying that he's very soft on her. You know, that's people's perception. They believe that he's very soft on her and he doesn't really discipline her in the way that they would like. So what he's basically come out to say is that, you know, this whole idea that so-and-so made this person, or you know how people say, well, this person was made by this person. He says he doesn't like it and he feels like it's got racist undertones to it. He's also said that Helen Zille hasn't been active within the DA for a long time and that really she's been focusing on running the Western Cape government because she's premier over there. And he did also say that at the end of the day, him and Helen do have a relationship, but in his words, he says that he's not beholden to her. That's exactly what he said. And I think part of the reason why he's saying this again is the perception that people have that, you know, they're particularly soft when it comes to disciplining her. At this point, from my understanding, you know, it's been referred to their own internal processes to see how they're going to discipline her, with a lot of people thinking that not much is going to happen to her either. But if these rumors are true that he wants her to go, who's to say? They found themselves, the DA, on Twitter talking about how Batabile Dlamini must go. You know, they're still on that whole fire Dlamini. And of course, the internet responded in kind to remind them that they have a bit of a situation of their own with Helen Zille. The internet is it's a beautiful place. So really quickly in American politics, I'm sure you guys are aware by now that, you know, Donald Trump has not had a good couple of days. So basically, the legislation that they had put forth to repeal Obamacare got thrown out and he's been left with egg on his face and everybody's just like, wow, this is incredibly awkward and embarrassing for him. I mean, at this stage, we are Bernie and Bernie is us, because I won't lie, when I first heard the news, I was like, well, another loss. And the thing about it is that, you know, it's been both his travel bans. So the first one got tossed out, the second one got tossed out, and this is the third big loss for him. So it's not looking good for Trump. Here's the thing though. So the Republicans have a 44-seat margin in the House. They have a 4-seat margin in Senate, and they've got a Republican president. So you would think that with all of those things put together, being that it's an overall Republican majority government, things would go their way. So of course I'm sitting here and I'm wondering, like, what happened then? How come the Republicans didn't come out in big numbers basically to support this? And I think it just stands that not everybody's in agreement with what he wanted to do. And I think it maybe means that not everybody has that much of a problem with Obamacare. I don't know. But of course, Donald Trump is finding a way, and you know, his rhetoric is now trying to find a way to blame the Democrats for all of this. But if you look at how, again, House and Senate is made up, it's not the Democrats' fault, because the Democrats could have easily said, we don't want. But if all the Republicans voted together unanimously, it would have been passed, but it didn't. So it's incredibly awkward. And of course, old tweets of Donald Trump keep resurfacing, and like, they're aging very badly, and they're all dry snitching on him in a way. It's actually very funny for me. I don't know about anyone else, but I find it incredibly entertaining when all these old tweets keep popping up and you apply them to a current situation and you're like, well, this is awkward. The reason why this is also a big deal is that this is a major legislative initiative that he wanted to put in place since taking presidency that hasn't worked. So that's why I'm saying he's not really having a good time. So Paul Ryan basically came out to try and explain and give his own 2 cents about, you know, what happened and how I suppose, you know, they can fix it or what they learned from it. And this is what he said.
This issue had a big difference of opinion, not whether we should repeal and replace Obamacare, but just how we should replace it. And that is the growing pains of governing. We were a 10-year opposition party where being against things was easy to do. You just had to be against it. And now, in 3 months' time, we try to go to a governing party where we actually have to get 216 people to agree with each other on how we do things. And we weren't just quite there today. We will get there, but we weren't there today.
The funny thing about this, though, is that I feel like there's a lesson in there for the DA. There is, you know. Just because you're the opposition doesn't mean you'll necessarily know what to do when it's your turn. That's all I'm saying. Keeping with Donald Trump, it has come out that it is very expensive to take care of him and the first family. So this is a story that's run to basically say it's costing millions and millions of taxpayers' money to take care of Donald Trump. So the story goes like this: 27 million US dollars was earmarked for security at their private residence at Trump Towers. Now you guys have to remember that Melania doesn't live at the White House. She lives at Trump Towers with 11-year-old Barron because, you know, she's still trying to help him transition, going to and from schools and all of that. So 27 million was earmarked to basically set up protection and security at Trump Towers. The thing about it is that there's nothing wrong with providing security to a president. No one is saying that. But I think ultimately all of these other extras, you know, Trump Tower having all this other extra security and all of these other things are costs that either they didn't factor them in or they didn't know how much they were going to be. But it's not just that. I mean, his older children are also playing a part in all of these costs adding up. I believe it was in February where Eric Trump went to Uruguay and he was there basically to handle business for Trump organizations. But the thing is, it cost the Secret Service 90,000 US dollars for that entire trip and for his safety and security. Now, something like that brings again to mind for a lot of people the fact that Donald Trump doesn't seem to be separating, or his family doesn't seem to be separating his presidency and his business interests, because what does Eric Trump going over there to talk about family business have to do with the Secret Service and it having to spend all of this money to protect him? And of course there's going to be more scrutiny because when Donald Trump announced his budget, a lot of anti-poverty programs lost their funding. So of course it's not going to sit well with taxpayers who are going to say that, look, all of these programs that people need and that were doing, you know, a lot of good are now losing their funding, but we're spending all of this money for the first family. Do you see what I mean? He's having some really serious problems. I mean, forget the fact that his daughter is out here acting like, you know, she's an employee of the White House, but, you know, she has no official title, meaning that she's not accountable to any of them, but she's sitting in meetings with world leaders and all sorts of things. This entire presidency it's looking kind of shady. It really is, but oh well. Last story I want to talk about is Tomi Lahren. Tomi Lahren, Trevor Noah's friend. So Tomi basically got suspended from her job at The Blaze. And the reason why she got suspended is because of what she said when she was on The View. And here's the clip.
You call yourself a conservative Republican and a constitutional conservative, but you also consider yourself pro-choice, which is interesting to me because 68% of conservative Republicans think that abortion should be illegal across the board.
No, I'm pro-choice, and here's why. I am a constitutional, you know, someone that loves the Constitution. I am someone that's for limited government, and so I can't sit here and be a hypocrite and say I'm for limited government, but I think that the government should decide what women do with their bodies. I can sit here and say that as a Republican, and I can say, you know what, I'm for limited government, so stay out of my guns. And you can stay out of my body as well. So I think it's...
You need to go out and speak to women about that.
I do every day.
Republican women.
I do every day.
Okay.
And, you know, I get a lot of attacks from conservative women as well.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's
unusual.
Equal hate from all sides for me.
You don't have any...
Girl, like, the thing is, I can almost see why she would get suspended from The Blaze. You know, when you think about what The Blaze is and what they represent and their beliefs and all of that, it would seem that Tomi kind of went off script, because the thing is, very few Republicans are pro-choice, you know, and for her, someone who's very visible, you know, and someone who a lot of people automatically associate with the Republican Party because she believes a lot of what they believe, for this to be the thing that she doesn't believe, you know, in line with them, it was enough for the people at The Blaze to be like, all right, cut it off, that's it. I personally am not going to be one of those people who suddenly, you know, going to want to clap for her and give her points, because what she said is something that's very logical. It's something that people have been saying for a really long time. So in my opinion, she didn't say anything that would warrant for me to suddenly be like, oh, you know, she's not that bad, she's not that, you know, because I remember everything else that she says, and it's funny, you know, that the people at the Blaze had no problems with all of the other things that she had to say, you know, that were very racially charged, but as soon as she talked about abortion, they were ready to cut her off. It says a lot about them. But what I'm saying is that I'm not going to give her points for this, you know. I don't respect her in that regard just because she said this, because again, for me, it's logical. It makes sense. The government should just stay out of women's reproductive organs. It's just it makes sense. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not gonna like suddenly be like Team Tommy. That's not happening. Her good friend Trevor Noah basically said that, you know, he was really upset about the whole thing and he wanted to protest, but you know, she's not about that protest life. So there's that. Anyway, guys, so those are some of the biggest stories that have been happening during the week. Please make sure you like this video, comment and subscribe, and I will see you next week for more shenanigans and happening not only in the Republic but in the world as a whole. Thanks for watching. Bye.